I've told this story before, but it's one that sticks with me, so here it goes again. When I was a kid, my family and I went for a walk on the beach. Now, this wasn't your typical summer stroll. It was the middle of winter. We're a little eccentric like that. Halfway through our walk, a fierce blizzard rolled in, seemingly out of nowhere. The wind howled, the snow was blinding, and we decided it was probably best to head back to the car. As we trudged through the snow, my brothers and I started doing what kids do best: complaining. We were tired, hungry, and thirsty. My dad, who grew up in the area, assured us there was absolutely nowhere to get food or drink on this particular stretch of coast. It was just wild, remote beach for miles. But then, as we battled through the whiteout towards the car park, a building started to loom out of the blizzard. It was a strange building, looking like an old annex from a 1960s or 70s school. You know the type if you're from the UK. It was squeezed between four ancient-looking hedgerows right on the spine of a long sand dune, as if the building had been there first, and the hedges just grew up around it over centuries. Outside, a simple sandwich board advertised hot drinks and snacks. Relief washed over us, and we all bundled inside, desperate to escape the cold. The place was absolutely packed. I mean, there must have been 4 or 5 dozen tables, and every single one was heaving with pensioners. They were all enjoying tea, toast, tea cakes, soup the works. What was so odd was that when we arrived, our car was the only one in the car park. The nearest bus stop was miles away in the village at the end of a long track. So where on earth did all these people come from? The room itself was just as strange. The tables and chairs were all mismatched, arranged around these glass display cases on podiums. Inside them were moldering, taxidermied specimens of what they called local wildlife. But many of the animals were creatures that don't live anywhere near the sea, like hedgehogs, badgers, and voles. And others were birds that are incredibly rare in that area, like cormorants and avocets. It just didn't add up. Right in the center of the room was a squared-off spiral staircase leading upstairs. Even though it was the middle of the day and we were in a bright white snowstorm, the top of the staircase was pitch dark. I mean, so black you couldn't even see the top of the banisters. It was like looking into a void. We found an empty table and sat down, and my dad went off to get us some food. And this is where it gets even weirder. Even as a kid, I remember looking at the prices on the wall and being completely confused. They were all in old money: ha'pennies, sixpence, shillings. Prices that hadn't been used in decades. The kitchen was an open pass, and all the equipment looked ancient, or I guess retro now. The women working behind the counter were very plump and happy, and they were dressed in old-fashioned clothes. When my dad came back with the food, he couldn't stop talking about how incredibly cheap it all was. He was also amazed by the woman who served him. He said she spoke to him using ultra-specific regional dialect terms that he thought had completely died out when he was a boy. He told us it was like being a school kid at the tuck shop all over again. We ate our food, and it was delicious. The tea cakes were massive and buttery, and the hot chocolate was exactly what we needed. After warming up, we bundled back into our coats, hats, scarves, and gloves, and stepped back out into the still raging blizzard. The whole time we were in that cafe, not a single other person entered or left, even though many tables had clearly finished eating long before we even arrived. We fought our way back to the car and, with a lot of difficulty, managed to get it back onto the track and headed home. The memory of that cozy, strange little cafe stayed with us. In the years that followed, we visited that same beach again many, many times in all seasons. But the building was gone. And I don't just mean it was closed down. It wasn't there. There were no signs that it had ever been there. No rubble, no ruins, not even a foundation. Even those ancient-looking hedges it was squeezed between had vanished without a trace. Now, as I've gotten older, it's easy to think that maybe I got confused that we went to a different beach that day. But my dad, who knew that area like the back of his hand, was certain about where we were. And the beach itself is very, very distinctive. It's a long, thin, teardrop-shaped spit of sand extending across a river estuary mouth. There's no other beach like it for miles. I know it was that beach because I have a crystal clear memory of seeing the red warning beacons at the top of the suspension bridge that crosses the estuary, blinking rhythmically through the blizzard. Being a curious person, I later used my student access to historical archives to investigate. I studied maps of the area from roughly every decade, going all the way back to the early 19th century. According to every single map, there was never, ever a building on that site. It's a mystery I've never been able to solve. A warm, welcoming place that existed for an hour and then vanished forever. What do you think happened? Was it a trick of the mind, or did we step into somewhere else? Let me know your theories in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.